What's up? Episode 4 of FIFO. My boy Samnang. There he is. There's the cannons.
They looking big today. They're looking pretty big
Dude,
today.
they're looking pretty big today, man.
I did legs yesterday after the show, dude. It was monster. The leg days are the hardest days, dude. And then by like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I took like a 3 hour nap.
Dude, yeah, I worked out this morning.
Yeah.
So I did chest. Just that's all I did. Just lifted
You
some
feel great.
weights.
You feel like He-Man.
No,
You feel
I fucking hate it, man.
uh you're soon to like it. You probably start to love.
I was thinking about that today, man. I was like, just like knowing you from like this little bit that we've interacted with and seeing your content, I'm like, this motherfucker probably loves this shit. Like loves lifting heavy things over top of him. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, when do I find that love for this? Because I just don't love it. It's one of those things that like I'm envious. Like I want to love it. I want to love it because I know it's good for me. And I know like and I do have these fitness goals for myself. But for right now, it's this thing that's like I fucking hate. But the part that I like about it is that the part that I like that I don't like about it is that when I force myself to do it, then it's like, cool, I force myself to do something hard, challenging that I don't like to do first thing in the morning, which sets
Yeah,
me up for more success throughout the day.
I
But
feel you. I mean, it's like you could focus on like the hard stuff. It is hard, of course, but you should be proud that you did some hard shit, right? You know, like for me, like when I'm proud to tell me people like, hey, I've been lifting for like 23 years. It's like I'm proud of that, right? That I never quit. That's something that's yours. And then focusing on like the hard or like the work and stuff, it's like everything's work.
yeah,
Not working out is work. you know,
right. No, it's a fact,
it,
dude. Like,
it comes into a different way. Like, okay, you don't work out, you don't get energy, right? You don't do this, you don't go to work, you don't get money. You don't do this, you don't get something. So it's like you don't work out, you don't get something. So you just don't know what
flow
you're.
in, flow out, like we talked,
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, no, it's true, dude. I know it, man. It's one of those things that's been bothering me that I used to bike. I liked biking, so it made it easier, right? But it was a
yeah,
time commitment thing, man. It was hard. It was like 2, 3 hours of biking every day.
yeah,
So now I'm like, okay, well, if I do like an hour of concentrated lifting, plus I talked to my other buddy that's like big into fitness, and he was telling me maybe this will be a good question for you, but he was like, dude, I'm biking 30 miles. I'm gassing myself out after
yeah.
30 miles of biking, and then I come home and lift weights. He's like, your body has no
That's a
energy
lot. You gotta
to
like,
build.
yeah. I mean, one-on-one coaching and stuff, looking at the program and what you want to do. That's kind of what I do too. So mainly it's like lifestyle coaching, like just regular folks, and then also too, if anybody wants to like level up to as an athlete and stuff too. So we had to look at like programming. So sometimes people do too much cardio. I see bodybuilders doing cardio like every day, even in their off season and everything. I was like, you don't not necessarily need to do it. There's other things that you can look at, like if your goal is to build on muscle and stuff, like how do you tailor your diet, how do you tailor your nutrition. So it's like if you more enjoy like biking, and I know I used to bike too. Mountain biking is it takes like almost half the day, and I loved it, but it's like, oh man, so much time commitment and stuff, so you couldn't do it. So you got to look at like creative ways to like do things that you can do. Like I have a road bike, I like it. I don't ride it until it's time to get into like peak shape, because that's cardio. Right now I'm trying to build muscle. So my main goal is to eat and fill in those macros and lift very heavy and like sleep. So that's the priority. So most people don't know what the priority is. If you're a hybrid athlete, like you want to be very well-rounded, pick up sports and everything. That's kind of like the program I'm putting together. Is the program where like, okay, foundational training, foundational nutrition. So if you need to become a lean, athletic Muay Thai fighter, you know how to cut. And then you also know how water manipulation, sodium manipulation works into your diet as well too. And when you eliminate it, what do you need to add to make sure that you're not like depleted and like dead, on fight night or whatever and stuff. So those are things like what nutrition is and what coaches do, things that like people sometimes can't see. And the thing is, I hired coaches to coach me on these things so I can fill these blind spots. Like you're filling my blind spots on like the digital marketing aspect and stuff about talking about, landing pages, cadence and repetition. Then to see this is stuff is like, it's like we're learning in motion and stuff too. So it's like
100%.
awesome. I think
100%.
the influence is going well too, because when I was coaching somebody, I heard her saying flow, just kind of like relax and like just surrender. I was like, yeah, I think we do kind of like get too tense about things too. So it's just kind of like slow it down and just go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%, man. And no, I think that was interesting too. I liked what you said as far as like, I think the thing like that I took away from that is you're like, oh, well, right now I'm building muscle, so this is what I'm doing. But then when I switch over to the bike and I'm trying to lean down for cardio for this, that, and the other, I'm like, and just the way that you think about shaping your body and your knowledge behind that. See, I think like that's something that's really powerful that I don't have. Like I don't have that knowledge base where it's like I know the levers to pull and the dials to turn within my own biochemistry and routine. And
Yeah,
if I do X, Y, or Z, then I'm going to bulk on muscle. Or if I do X, Y, or Z, I'm going to lean down over here. Like, I mean, it's my understanding of like how I can make my body look the way that I want it to is
yeah,
very rudimentary. It's like lift heavy things over and over and over again, use as good a form as you can, right? Like that I can do without being coached. And then like as far as diet, it's like I mean we eat pretty healthy. Like I haven't had fast food since I was 18. I haven't had a dark soda since I was 18. Like we eat
really,
very, very healthy for the most part.
yeah,
Lots of protein, lots of vegetables. So I'm not too concerned with that. Um, and now that I cut out drinking and everything else, like I feel like we have a
yeah.
pretty
You're
healthy
great.
diet.
You're in a good path. Your family's gonna be like very healthy, happy, and like grounded, and like the fact that you're going is good, and I admire that absolutely, man. Like when you have friendships as adults and stuff, like you admire your friends. Like I have friends that like I admire, and I have friends that I want to bring on a podcast as well too to talk about this stuff that we're talking about as well.
100%.
Uh, yeah, we could talk about like I think the topic that we wanted to talk about today is woo woo, right?
Well, that's actually, yeah, and I'm very selfish on this one because I've heard you say it a bunch and I'm dying to
Yeah.
understand what you
Well, so
mean.
next episode we're gonna talk about your expertise, and I'll talk about my expertise today and like bodybuilding and how we start connecting everything and flowing and stuff. So I think this is a good episode. I was excited for it that you
Yeah,
asked me.
man. And I'll tell you this too, just from a digital marketing perspective. When I hear woo woo, there's like this thing, like it's a catchphrase, right? Like there's a catchphrase, there's all sorts of like the
Yeah,
hooks, all that stuff, right? But it's very synonymous to your personal brand because I haven't really heard anybody else bring up woo woo. So
yeah,
it's like when I hear that, it rings something, right? Like it's like, oh, that's interesting. What is that? And you say it the way that thing that I like about what you've done up to this point and why I'm so interested is because you just say it in casual conversation. It's kind of like the product placement in movies where
yeah.
they're just like, using the product, but they don't ever talk about it or anything. It's just like happens to be
Woo woo.
right. So yeah, man. No, I'm excited about this. Let's get into it. So what
Yeah.
is what is woo woo? What is
What
woo
is
woo?
woo woo? Woo woo at the end of the night. I mean, I could really talk about it. Like if you gave me like a couple minutes to talk about it and stuff. Woo
You
woo is a
got a
lot.
couple minutes. This is your podcast, brother.
Woo woo is a lot. Woo woo could be anything. It really can be like woo woo. So as like coaches and stuff, like I guess we could talk about an example as like parenting and stuff. I have Zena and Zara, and if they little girls, they get bad moods, like daddy does something wrong and does something actually and yells at them and stuff, right? So they get all like pouty and stuff. And then, like you could say woo woo, right? Woo woo, woo woo. It's like you're generating your energy to kind of go on them. And then they start saying woo woo, right? And they really, you can't be really sad and like saying woo woo, right? You're like, then you look like an asshole. You're like, woo woo, woo woo, right? So you're actually changing like physiology. So that's the word
Okay.
that we're talking about is like physiology is how you actually change from the inside your mood and like all that stuff. So I'm coaching them just like woo woo. It's so like the concept is very simple. It's like if you could teach a very high level concept like spirituality to a kid, you understand that subject. So it's like woo woo, right? So as they get older and stuff, like, Daddy, why do you always say woo woo? And I could be like, here's why I told you what woo woo is. Woo woo is, in another sense, is like, I want you to be you, you know? I want Danny to be you. I want whoever I coach to be you. I want my kids to be you, just you. And when you're in a good and elevated mood, like happy and bliss, that's you. That's like who everybody should be and stuff. So it's like spreading the woo woo, just woo. Like it's also mysterious in a way, right? I thought this all kind of like in my head. Be what
Yeah.
the thing is, like if I say something like woo woo, I just I just my mantra is like woo 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 woo. Like in my head, woo woo. It's like repetition. Like my repetitions in like the gym comes into my life. So the way I meditate is like if I'm trying to like learn something, I don't know what it is, like FIFO, or a title or something, like repetition, repetition. Maybe if I'm trying to learn like my pitch for school, repetition, repetition, repetition. That's what I'm doing in my head and stuff. It's really actual exercise, mental exercise for like the meditation. So going back to woo woo spirituality too. You
Well,
know, it's
let me pause you on that and pull the thread on this one because I'm curious. So, okay, so I got it. So woo woo, it's something you came up with then. It's not like something you read about or like this is like your brainchild of woo woo, right?
well, I mean, it's not like I invented it. I think I just yeah, I'm in my own universe. So it's stuff that I read and I put together. I'm like, woo woo. Like I have another mantra I can share. I love this mantra. It okay. So you know you everybody know who Bruce Lee is. Anybody
Of
that's Asian
course.
knows Bruce Lee or a guy. So in Enter the Dragon, he was like, there the I does not exist. The I does not exist. Okay. And then when the Buddha became enlightened, he was like, everything it is an illusion, right? There was like in the translation, but he said everything it is illusion. And then I, the great philosopher here, the illusion starts with I. The I is the ego. And when you in
Mhm.
spirituality, ego is the most hardest, it's like the hardest concept to understand. I was
Yeah.
struck. I was like, am I being narcissistic? Am I being confident? Am I being cocky? And I'm creating this person because of what people think I should be, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the real illusion, right? People are not actually stepping out of this because this exists. That's the
Yeah,
matrix. It
100%.
exists, which is fine. It's built for everybody. But then there's people like you and me that are intelligent and rebels that just want to be like, I don't wanna be in this 9 to 5. Like I don't wanna have my life suck, you know?
Yeah,
I'm not saying anything about that, but my life would have sucked. I would rather be doing what I'm doing now, even if I got paid
100%.
nothing. Even if I got paid nothing.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're willing to take on the struggles that, in the matrix, as you call it, right? And like in that space, which I totally like abide by. Like there is like this ethos around it, right? Like a matrix type
No, the
thing.
Buddha actually talks about the Matrix. The ethos behind it is because Andrew Tate brought it, and he's very controversial. But
Right.
the Matrix, the rat race, Robert Kiyosaki talks about it. Even the Buddha talks about this illusion, which is the same, is actually the same thing. When I say
Yeah.
illusion starts with I, it's like, look at yourself, right? The ego. Are you doing what you're are you going to social like I question like I used to hate going like I was playing fantasy football. I was like, I don't even like fantasy football. And I was like, that's not like because I was like, no, there was like, it was a lot of social pressure because it was my buddies, it was my brother's crew, it was like people that I kind of grew up like after college for like 8 years. I was like, but I was like, I don't want it.
Yeah. Oh no, man. And there's so much more to it and it gets so much bigger, right? And to your point, like that's where like that level of society, like it will also feed you too, in the sense of like it'll keep you
Yeah,
just full enough and just content enough that you just stay right where you are inside of there, right? And
yeah,
that's the part that like is attractive to a lot of people, is that you can find that consistency. But and then when you step out of the matrix and you step out into this space that we're in, to your point, this is where you have to have that self-conviction and you have to be able to like truly be in love with yourself and be in love with what you do and truly believe that what you're doing is making an impact on the world, because there are moments over here where you don't have the money and you
hmm,
are in a low where like, for instance, for me, like last year as I was growing through this business, I mean, I probably still have them. I could dig them up. Foreclosure notices.
damn,
Like
yeah,
getting one of those when you have a family of three, right?
that's stressful as
And
fuck.
like, and just being like, yep, cool. All right, onward. Like, don't even
Yeah,
fret it. Don't even fret it. Like, yep, I know it's there. I'm gonna fix it. I know I can fix it. I'm gonna
yeah,
fix it. Not a big deal. And then, like, of course, I ended up fixing it. We got the house. I paid it all off, or not the whole house off, but I got us fully caught back up on mortgage by the end of the year, which is a big goal of mine, right? But I had to take that. You have to take those punches and strides where, like, that in the Matrix, like, dude, most people would be mortified to get a possible foreclosure, let alone would they even want to tell the world. Because in that space, it'd be like, oh, you're not
yeah, yeah,
paying your bills. Oh, like what are you doing? Like, because like the society tells you like you have to follow these norms. So,
yeah.
anyways, that's a story for another time.
Uh,
But I think it's 100% spot on of the illusion. I love that part of it. So let's dive back into, okay, so you have this
oh,
mantra,
yeah,
right? And you started realizing this illusion piece of it. And then there's still woo woo, which is like kind of a collection of what I'm understanding of like your different teachings and learnings to
everything.
to
Yeah,
Sam Nang's perception, your lens of it all,
yeah.
which is woo
I
woo.
could explain it so many different ways. My friend was she was like college friend. I was like, how do you know all this? I was like, well, I spend like I, I'm kind of weird in a way where like since I'm a coach, is like if I see something that works, I hang on to it like a motherfucker. Like, some people meditate for like 20 minutes, like that's good, 30 minutes and stuff. Like I literally can meditate for like 2 to 3 hours and stuff. So it's like because there's so much benefit to what I'm doing now,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like I'm inventing something. Like I need time to go meditate and actually invent it and put it together. That's the This is the alchemical process. It's science too. Woo woo is it's spirituality, but I can explain it in science. If you can't explain it in science, you just sound too woo woo. If you want a little woo, you just go in the middle woo. You explain it with a little science and a little spirituality. But I can explain it. I think this is an important topic, and I do want to share what I learned. Is so you got to have a little bit of science and you got to have a little bit of woo woo spirituality to understand that there's a little bit more out there than just the physical world, which is the matrix. So the spiritual world, woo woo, it's basically just increased consciousness, right? What you're seeing with me is like if there was a room with 100 light bulbs on, normal people would be like 10 light bulbs, maybe 15, 20 or something. Somebody that breaks out of the matrix is probably at like 30 or 40. And then somebody that gets into the quantum, I'm in the quantum, like where my consciousness is like almost all my lights are on, right? I would say that goes to like 80%. I don't think my brain is fully at its capacity,
And
but
and I just want to point something out to the audience. That's what like this particular moment. Then I keep going. Don't lose your train of thought. But
yeah,
I just want to, this is something I just noticed. This isn't you talking from a cocky standpoint, right? Like this isn't you being like, I'm so smart. This is you coming from a very self-actualization standpoint in
Yeah,
which you
yeah.
can talk confidently about because it's a reality for you. And that's something that's important for people to realize. But keep going.
Yeah, yeah, 80%. And I don't say 100% because I still have more that I'm actually learning right now because my brain has just took another level of consciousness. I'm able to understand different types of books that if I didn't have these connections in my brain, and that's why I study neuroscience, like Andrew Huberman and stuff. I've been under like the word is neuroplasticity.
Hmm.
That's the word. It's a buzzword. People don't know how to use or understand it, but like the brain is still you could actually mold it. You can mold the brain, and that's where you start with the alchemical process. It's like the brain is it's right here. You got to understand and you got to believe it. Belief is like very important. It's like until you believe that you could change your brain, you could end your suffering, you could do what you need to do, like end those diseases that's coming in your body. That's like right here in the brain,
A hundred
right?
percent.
One
A
hundred.
hundred percent.
Yeah, if you keep holding on, like I'm gonna be like this forever. Of my, God did this to me, and like just you cannot release these energy fields and stuff.
That's
So
that's what I'm gonna do for working out in the morning, man. I'm gonna just start convincing myself that I love it. Like that's
yeah,
it. There it is, right
I,
there.
and in the morning that transition, I could go more into it as well too, and I'll keep going to it. But that's good. So in between the waking up phase and the sleep phase and the waking up phase, there's a transition between brain waves, right? You go from like theta to I can't remember, it's like beta to theta, right? This is the area like before you go to bed and when you wake up, right? This is where you kind of like recondition or change your subconscious to reprogram it to say, okay, I love weightlifting. This is gonna get me some gains. This is gonna get maybe this, right? This is where you transition. You don't say I hate it, I hate it, you love it, you love it, you love it, right? It's a mantra. And now you're like, yeah, I love waking up at 5 a.m. I love doing podcasts. It's like I'm different, but I programmed it to what I want it to be, right?
Right.
Self-actualized person. But so you got the brain, and then there's the heart, right? These are all like energy centers. I think these are the biggest one is the brain, and then the chest, and then you got the crotch. This is where you get all the woo sexual energy, right?
That's the mojo woo woo down
Yeah,
there, bro.
you could unlock the mojo. Like I unlocked the mojo. I was like, holy shit! I'm like, I got a
Oh
funny
man.
story about that too. That's like a whole podcast. Now I learned. I became a master in yoga like overnight, and I started researching like Kundalini and Sadhguru, who's the master, yoga master. The reason why I picked it up fast because of my time in bodybuilding. Like the mind muscle connection is like you like how do you focus your mind to build this bicep, right? It's the mind muscle. So you get like in the gym, you're like, how do I get that to look like the way I look, right? And you human Renner was explaining, he was like, when you're in the gym and you can see your physical body, it's gonna how looks like in the future. You're like that gives you almost like absolute certainty that's what you're doing. So when
Mm,
I say
yeah,
go work out, that's an actual act of physical manifestation.
I love
Like
that,
on
dude. That's
TV,
something I've never really done, right? Because I've always just, you have this perception of your body. And for me, I've always just been the scrawny, skinny guy,
yeah,
right? And for a while I was skinny fat, right?
yeah,
So like when I see myself in the mirror, I'm just like, that's who I am. So when I'm working out, it's like I've never really thought about that before, where it's like looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, this is the way that I want my arms to look. This is the way that I want my
yeah,
chest to look. Like I can think about that in conversation. I'm like, oh yeah, I want the Matthew McConaughey shirt off body, like da 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 da. But then like when I'm actually doing it, I'm not consciously thinking about like this is increasing my chest up here to do this. So therefore I'm going to focus in on this muscle flexing as I do this. Like I'm not I haven't made it to that part of the connection in the working out yet. So that's fascinating because I'm huge on visualization, huge on
yeah.
it,
It's
big
big.
believer in it. I'm a big believer in manifestation, and I can do that with my life. I can do that with my future. I can see my future and then I can go craft it and get it because I believe that is not to be a dream, but it's to be an unrealized reality, right?
Hmm.
So that I just learned something huge in this conversation alone that enlightened me as far as my personal journey within fitness, right? But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I keep like derailing you, but keep
No,
going.
you provide insight, and it also gives me a time to like break too, because I did, to be honest, like I wanted to start a podcast, but I was like, I don't know if I could talk about myself for the whole time. I wanted to do long form it, but having the
Well, no,
breaks.
I mean but this is just your like this. That's just it, right? It's like, and it's your experiences, and like
Yeah,
again, going back to the topic of woo woo, it's one of those things that, and this is again something for marketing too, right? And here's a marketing piece of it. In casual conversation, those little intrigues of what when you just like, oh yeah, I'm out there and I'm achieving woo woo, or I'm doing woo woo, or I'm like those little things that just naturally come out. Those are the interesting bits that people are like, I want to learn more. That's what you get to click on, right?
yeah,
And
you
then it
like that.
goes to the next page.
I'm gonna note that. I think that's good naturally.
Yep.
So the concept of water and flow and stuff, it's real. Like it has to be. That's how you get naturalness. Bruce Lee talks about it. He's like, it's unnatural naturalness. It's so hard to understand, but that's why like I became a philosopher to understand this. It's like the unnatural naturalness, the conscious, subconscious. Almost everything that you do, there's like a contradiction to it. Like if I go train intense, super intense, and like my life is intense, what has to support that? My recovery has to support that. My sleeping, my sauna, my
Hmm.
stretching, my everything, right? So yin yang, right? It's almost like the opposite. It's very philosophical, but I try to be able to blend everything together. So that's woo woo for me. It's like when I get in the woo woo, like the flow, it's like it feels good.
Yeah, man. I love it. And another thing I'm taking away from this that I'm 100% going to try. I got
Yeah,
young kids, right?
yeah,
They have tantrums like every young kid does.
yeah.
I'm going to tell them, I'm going to 100%, I mark my words. I'll even try and capture it and film it if I can. I'll tag you in it. Next time my kid's having a tantrum, I'm going to say woo woo. Say woo woo.
Yeah.
Try it. And
This
just
is
say woo woo.
I learned this from Tony Robbins. Uh, Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is a master coach. Like he'll have in a seminar and I have people like go into the deep end with him, and they're like crying in front of like the audience and stuff. And then he'll say something ridiculous like, "Your shoes is fucking ugly," right? And then he'll have them like the crowd laughing and her laughing, and he just keeps making them laughing, and he just shows you that you're actually able to change your state. Like if you're depressed, you could change your state almost instantly. You just choose not to, right? Because of what you focus on and stuff. So when I was going through all my shit, I was like, I have to be disciplined on this. And then when I made the breakthrough, I was like, that discipline carried over, and that's why we're here trying to like become a bodybuilding champion and being an influential thought leader.
Dude, it's the Yoda, man. There is no try. There's do or do not, right?
Yeah,
That's your future, bro. You're gonna be a bodybuilding champion. It's just
thanks, man.
it. That's just
That's
what it's gonna be.
the community. The community aspect. I love the community aspect part of you know putting this out there and even sharing for people that even if they don't pay, I don't care. At least they're getting some wisdom. At least they get to see us or hear us, and just have the valuable conversation that we're having. If it's if it resonates now, sometimes it doesn't resonate immediately for people, like wisdom between like what they're doing and stuff, like self-actualization and like personal work is actually like very fun. It's not like yeah, who made that rule? Like I want to say, like who made that rule where life can't be fun anymore? Like we're having fun.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
We're having like we're up at like you can see it's dark, nobody's awake, we're having fun.
That's it, man. 100%. And I think there's also something interesting here too that also has a relation to marketing. And I'm noticing you're doing it, and this is a compliment, right? And I think you'll appreciate this in the coaching space.
Yeah,
So repetition, right? We talk about repetition in coaching, whether it be You're
Yeah.
trying to become a better snowboarder, trying to become a bodybuilder, trying to do anything physical, right? It's very, very easy. Repetition, repetition, repetition.
Yeah.
School, same thing.
Repetition.
Work, same thing, repetition. Well, guess what? In marketing, it's the same thing because people forget. And I'll have to pull up the study. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's something ridiculous. Like you have to remind a total stranger. Okay. So if you want a total stranger to become a customer of you have to remind said total stranger upwards of like 90 times before they trigger in their brain that
90.
you even offer the solution, right? So, and if you think about that, like think about that even just in your personal experience in coaching and coaching
Yeah.
people, right?
You
Like
do.
how many times do you have to tell them the same thing over and over and over again? Or do you tell them the same thing in a slightly different way until you find whichever metaphor happens to work?
Yeah.
So then they're like, "Oh, I get it." Right?
That's
And
the world of coaching.
yeah, exactly, man. And it's the world of digital marketing too. That's the reason why you have
Digital quick too.
yeah, it's the retargeting, it's the emails, it's the webinars, it's the podcasts, it's all of this stuff that they put out there to just remind you that hey, this
Where
is what they offer. For instance, and a good like one of the masters of this, and I love him, and you're part of the program is Hormozy,
Modi, yeah.
Alex Hormozy. So here's the most fascinating thing about Alex Hormozy and the way that he does his content, right?
Yeah.
From an outside perspective, and if nobody here, if like any of the audience hasn't looked him up, I highly encourage you to look him up. I'm a
Yeah.
big believer.
He's a
His
beast.
yeah, he like his marketing strategies and business strategies are awesome. And from the outside looking in, when you first start to consume his content, you might think that he's a digital coach or a digital guru, and that at some point there's going to be a paywall and you're going to have to pay for his course, right? Like that's how he's kind of positioned himself in the market, but he doesn't. His stuff's for free for the most part. Um, but he does these subtle reminders over and over and over again that he owns acquisition.com. And
Yeah.
acquisition.com is his private equity firm that buys companies. And he reminds you consistently, like you may not be there today, just like I'm not there today, but I know his buying criteria. I know that if I get my company to 2 million in profit, he will have a conversation with me about an acquisition. And I know that way before I'm anywhere near that particular point. And that's the brilliance of the marketing strategy that he has in place. He's giving out all this value and all these tools
Yeah.
to help business owners like myself grow my business. And he's constantly peppering in, well, if you get to $2 million in EBITDA, talk to
Yeah.
me.
I mean,
Right.
that business strategy is genius. Not everybody's gonna understand or see the opportunities and stuff. It's just like the lips of wisdom. Like he's a very wise person at the same time too. So that's why I gravitated towards him. And his business advice was very sound. It's like business is not also it's not that risky if you do it strategically. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm always in a plus, but I don't go as fast as some folks. So business and everything, it's a lot of just strategy and stuff. So it's like uh some objections that I have, and I'm struggling with like pricing as well too. Should I make my community free or should I make it membership? How do I charge for the free or for the courses? I'm giving out free e-courses. I'm troubleshooting this like today, now, right now. I'm in a mastermind with him right now too. So I'm consuming his content and actually putting it into play too. So it's like, and you're learning it as well too. We're all building it together too. So it's a fun synergistic kind of thing that we're all doing, and I just feel very compelled to share it.
Yeah, man. I mean, and that's the starting block, right? Is sharing that part of the journey and the growth of it, right? And I think it's you've hit on a couple nails like on the head. Like at the end of the day, we all need to receive value back. And right now, our primary way of doing that is through money and currency, right? And how you price it and when you price it and when do you ask for the pay, when do you ask someone to become a customer from, a follower or an audience member to become a paid customer. And the thing that's funny about that, man, is if you can do it right. I know Hermosi talks about like all these guys talk about when to do the ask. if you do it right and you do it well, which I think you're doing a pretty decent job of it so far, you don't necessarily need to ask because they know that if they want to take it to the next level, it's there, right? And if you look at this in the SaaS model, so we use HubSpot as our CRM.
That's
SaaS is software as a service.
oh
So
yeah,
Zoom is a SaaS, right? Like it's a software as a service. Facebook is a SaaS,
yeah.
software as a service, right? So like it's a piece of software that you regularly consume. They offer a service, and then at some point they give you a paywall. And I think HubSpot's one of the best that does it. So HubSpot will give you a free account for a CRM. They don't
Hmm.
care. Sign up for free, add in all your contacts, whatever. But
Yeah,
then
yeah,
they have all of these awesome features to help you, do customer relation management. And when you click them, it's like, up, you got to pay. You got to increase your membership, you got to increase your
yeah,
membership,
yeah. I think that's
right?
kind of like I've been thinking about it as well too. So I'm in the cusp of like, should I offer my free? But I also don't want like people that are gonna waste time in there. So there's got to be like a little bit. But that's where like a little barrier to entry or like buy-in for it. And I don't want it to be a lot. I want it to be like I want you in my community, but you also have to understand there's a little bit of a buy-in because when there's a buy-in to anything, it's like, and this might be a whole nother conversation and talking about how much money you spend on yourself and invest on yourselves as well too, outside of just like I spend a lot of money on myself. I think like that's why when you're doing personal development like you contemplate like are you a narcissistic person because you spend so much money on yourself and like your education and stuff, but it's like no, you do it because you want to elevate other people too.
Right.
You take care of your family. It's not I'm like taking away, I'm enhancing myself. So yeah, I think we got a
And
little technical, bro.
yeah, man, a little bit, but to
We let
kind
a
of
lot.
wrap that point up and something, to think about too is that monetary commitment, right? The reason why you pay money and that is a part of the program is because yeah, you can be a part of this community and you can start to get all of this great information. But the ones that really are going to take this and run with it and actually apply it, those are the ones that should commit
Mhm.
a monetary commitment to it, right? Because once you bet with your wallet, it becomes very real for a lot of folks. And it's one of those things that like, oh, now I need to get my ROI on that. Like we all
Yeah,
think in terms of investment, whether we consciously think of that or not, right? When we buy something, we're constantly thinking about the benefits of what we're going to get when we buy it. Whether if we're going to upgrade the new iPhone, right? Why are we getting it? Well, because it's got this feature and this feature and this feature and this feature, and it's going to make my life that much more exciting. Whether it is or it isn't is another story, but that's the reason why we do these things, right? So when you get into this space, there is a point where you do need to commit a monetary investment. And part of that is the belief that the money that you're putting into it, you are going to get that in tenfold back to
yeah,
you, right? And it's not necessarily a monetary gain that you can get, but it's a personal gain. And that personal gain is going to change a lot for you. And I think a lot of us all realize we can be better people. I don't think that there's a single person in this world that truly thinks that they have it all figured out. They are perfect. And if they're drinking from the teat of the Matrix and they are totally fucking lost, right? In the illusion. Because it's just not true. Like I think everybody realizes that they need to become better. And
of course.
then it's finding these things like you and Peak Performance Academy that can be a vehicle for them to get better. But to
Yeah,
do that, they have to commit not just their time, not just their energy, but with their wallet, because then it becomes tangible, it becomes real back to them, because that
yeah,
is them trading their time,
yeah.
their earned time back, right? So, anyways, yeah, we did kind of turn this one around a little bit from the woo woo, but I think
And
it's
we kept the show balanced. If I talk too woo, we're gonna lose the guy audience, and then the I tell you, if you talk about spirituality, if anybody there's guys out there, if you know how to talk about like spirituality, it's good for your dating life.
there you go, man.
It's good for
It,
your dating.
I believe it. I believe it.
Girl.
You gotta get in touch with the feminine
Yeah,
ego.
there's the okay, the feminine energy. How are we doing on time? Are we?
I think we're right around like 30 minutes or so, so we're all right.
All right, let's talk. Maybe I'll talk for a little bit more. Explain it. Woo woo is a lot. Like woo is a whole different realm. It's a whole different world that I'm navigating myself. So I'm not an expert in it, but I just gotta share just my experience and stuff. But yes, when I meditate, like people ask me, like I'm big into meditation. It's like uh it's my practice just blew up, right? So you get to like you're like this, and then when you hit the level of consciousness, it like amplifies. It's like a compounding effect. So it just blew up. My brain just, oh my, I understand like everything. I was like, I never knew there was a certain level of consciousness that existed. This level of woo woo. uh, but yeah, so I mean, it's a mix between spirituality and the science. That's how I teach, how I coach, because it has to be backed up and supported by science. So we could talk a lot about metaphysics and stuff, energy vibrations and frequencies and stuff. How do you raise them? How do you actually like do it and stuff? That's a practice. It's a hard practice, but it's worth it, where you can actually control pretty much everything in your universe, like anything that I want, like to manifest. um Before it blew up, I felt like it was something different. It was more of like I was just visualizing. Now it's actually like I feel like, oh, I have a lot of control on my universe, right? And that's what we talk about, like, to control the universe, you control yourself
Mhm.
from the
Yeah.
inside. So there's a lot of, like, my coaching, a lot of introspective work. Why? Why are you here? Why are we speaking? Why are we on the podcast? Why am I creating this community? Why am I charging this? Why? All the time, it's repetition. So when the time to make a decision, it's easy, right? For me, it's like they told you my brain's working. It's like for somebody to make 2 to 3 year decision, mine is done in like one day, so we could just move, move, move. And if it sucks, okay, move, move. If it didn't work out, move, right?
Right.
Not detached to the detachment's one big concept too in Eastern concept there. Like the idea of surrender.
Yeah.
That's hard. Surrender.
Mm-hmm.
That way we can
It
have a
is.
whole conversation. I just want to tell people like, dude, you're holding on to so much that you don't need to hold on to. And when you
So
release
true.
it, you have like this level of like uh lightness about you. When you're more conscious, you feel lighter, right?
Yeah.
On ballet in my living room.
I mean, dude, I'll tell you, like, just on that topic, and we not to go too far into it, but just on the thread of surrender, like one personal one for me was, I had a chief growth officer job. I had an executive level salary, right? Like I had mo more money than I ever had in my life. And I had to surrender. Like I had this drive to go back into my entrepreneurial space and do my own thing and start my own business. But I had such a mental conflict with it because I had bills. Like I was part of the matrix, right? And I knew it. And I have this, like I said, I had this video of myself that I filmed of how miserable I was. And the fear of going into that space, losing the house, being late on bills. Like my credit score is the best it ever was, right? Like all these other little check boxes that most of society would be like, you are a success. I checked all those boxes, right? And
Yeah,
then I'm like, I don't feel like it's success. I want
yeah,
to throw all that away and go back into entrepreneurship. And the actual act of me quitting that job and going into entrepreneurship truly was me surrendering into that greater drive of like, no, I'm surrendering back into the fact that I want to continue this journey of being a business owner. Because
yeah.
it was something that was just eating at me and I
At least,
kept kind of pushing it away. And finally I surrendered. I was
yeah.
like, fine, screw it, I'm gonna do it.
And
So
that's the honest truth. The reason why people have disease and like these illness and like stuff with their brain and stuff, because they like if a thought goes unthought, it's gonna stay in that head. That guilt builds up. It keeps the vibrations low. It keeps you
mm,
in these like low states of consciousness where like you can't, like if you're angry, if you're sad and that stuff, you can't think clearly. And it go, I mean, it's like I've experienced it, so I'm empathetic to it and stuff. So that's why like my coaching is here. Is like I understand if you're in this like low level of like grief, if you're suffering from loss, everybody suffers, right? Or pain, right? You can't go through life without it. You can't. Your parents are gonna pass away. You're you're gonna lose boyfriends, girlfriends, relationships, job losses, right? How do you navigate that? Or do you just continue staying like, because you continue like a lot of times when it happens over and over and over, that's trauma, that's recurring negative events, and they don't know how to fix it. How do you fix it? You got to actually change your story. You got to go into that subconscious and be like, look, I'm gonna lift at 5 a.m. where my brain is going from wake to whatever, and I'm gonna become a very powerful person, right? The when you carry conviction and stuff, like I'm actually doing it. Like I'm gonna go crush the gym and become a very powerful person for the day, get into character, and go and ask everybody to join my community, right? I don't know. That's some hard shit to do and put
Yeah.
yourself out there, right? It's very hard, like absolutely hard. That's why it's like it's a mantra, like every day. Don't skip leg day. Woo woo. Like repetition, 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 repetition. As you do it over, your skills are sharp. Repetition, like, is the mother of all skills. So if you want to learn to be very skillful, repetition, repetition, just understand that concept. Like there's big concept that we could go in, like I'll teach more in like the classes and stuff, like one big concept and stuff, and then try to practice it. Practice
Yep.
is, that's where it is. It's in the practice. It's not in the idea. The idea is sexy. The practice is where you get all the benefits, you know?
Facts, man. I mean, that's 100%. So look, let's do this. Let's wrap it up with two things. Okay.
Yeah.
So one, I think and feel free to rebuttal this, but my gist of this podcast for the next episode, I feel like we should talk about selfishness
Yeah.
and
The
what
ego.
that means. The
I like,
ego.
oh, the
Yeah.
ego, the ego is very hard to understand.
I
Like,
think that like that really in like this conversation I think kind of inspired that for me, like taking a deeper dive and pulling the thread on that. I think there's a lot to unpack. Like I know there's a lot to unpack on my end. Like when I had a big ego and I was letting my ego kind of run my life all the way down to like when I released my ego and I started doing other things, right? So I think like I think I'm always fascinated by like, is there true selfishness? So I don't know. Um, or I'm sorry, is there true selfish, selfless?
yeah. Man,
Uh,
you're getting very philosophical now.
I am getting a little philosophical, but I want to, I think it'd be a good conversation for us. So let's talk about the ego in the next episode. And then something I want to start doing is actionable things that we can put into place. So part of this podcast, given your background, given my background, just for us to like, what
Oh
are
yeah.
some tips? What are some things that we can do that I could apply today or, tomorrow, whatever, like an actionable thing that I could do today that's going to help me. And so you understand like where my struggles are right now, which is really just, for me, it's the physical fitness. Like I have this idea, but now I need to make it more of a reality. So what can I do from a physical fitness perspective? And then I have one teed up for you from
Okay.
digital because I know that you're interested in the digital marketing perspective.
Yeah, yeah. I need some help.
So so if you want, I'll start on my tip for you, something that you can
Yeah,
apply immediately.
yeah. Let me write that down. Yeah. This is
So
great.
so
The
this
life coach,
isn't
it's like
yep,
coaching and coached.
that's it, man. That's it. So when it comes to creating content, because you do a lot of video content, which is great. I deal with a lot of owners that don't want to be on camera, and that's a different challenge, but you don't mind being on camera. So here's my challenge.
Because I got big muscles.
You got the you got the big muscle. So hook,
Hook.
value, payoff. Have you ever heard that before? Hook, value, payoff.
No.
Okay, so a hook.
Is this Gary Vaynerchuk?
No, this is actually I forget the guy that I learned this from. This I actually learned from a
Oh,
digital ad.
I
Um,
think I seen some really catchy ads, good ads. There's
yeah.
some there's just some good ads.
Well, you'll notice like as you start to watch the good ads, they all have they all follow this path, right? And a
Right.
lot of viral videos also follow this path. This is like kind of one of the keys to virality.
Like I
So
so
the hook is you can think of it of like a very intriguing question, right? A video I just did recently using this framework that did really well. I got actually a ton of engagement. The hook was the opener, and it was a question, and it was like, "What is it like having a drink after I went 6 months sober?" That's the hook,
okay, yeah. So it gets people kind of like curious or like
right?
um
It's a intriguing, unique, interesting question, or it can even be a weird question, right? So like, and this is the beauty, like being a coach. Think about all the crazy metaphors that you come up with during the day,
yeah.
and you can leverage those, right? So some type of an intriguing question. The
Mhm.
value chunk of it is the storyline behind it, right? So if the question was, what is it like having a drink after going 6 months sober? The next scene is the value, which is why I decided to go sober,
Wow.
right? So it's like 6 months ago, I was drinking a ton. I needed a life change, right? Like you can even go back and watch that video. You'll see this framework. So that's the value is going through the story of it. And ideally, you keep this super short. If you can, keep it to like 30 to 40 seconds tops, right?
Yeah.
So the hook questions like 3 seconds, 2 seconds. The value part of it, try to keep it in that 10-second, 15-second realm. Sometimes it goes over, which is fine. Like as you're practicing it, I'm still practicing this. But the value is the storyline. And then the payoff happens at the end, and don't overdo the payoff. The payoff is answering that initial question. So my answer in that story was I found out, and this is all true, but I found out I lost my palate for booze.
Yeah.
Like I tried a drink that I normally like an IPA or something that I would normally like
Oh, yeah.
devour and love.
What's a good one? I think I've been thinking because I had a reel. I was talking about alcohol, and I was talking about in another one about erectile dysfunction. That caused a lot of guys out there like, yeah, dude.
That's it, man. Like, yeah, exactly. Like something unique like that. Like, how does this play into your dick? So, but I mean, that's just it, right? So, hook, value, payoff. So, practice that while you're creating your content. Think about that. Try a couple of them out because I know you do a lot of it, and just see what kind of reaction you get. That's my tip for you this week.
Okay, that's awesome. That's a great tip. And then for you, your tip of the week, I would say I know you hate lifting in the morning. You have a barbell and you have a little home workout gym, right?
Yep.
How much did you work out today, or like what time duration?
Like, if
Five
I'm
minutes,
being real, like 10, 15 minutes tops.
10, 15 minutes tops. Okay, make it a 45-minute workout. Okay,
Ah, fucker. All right.
and then and you'll do it Monday to Friday, 45 minutes. Okay, and then just put on some music that you like to get you in the some inspiring music. Because music actually helps raise your vibrations. Most people don't know it. Like you can't be sad. Well, you can be sad listening to your music and stuff, but music plays a lot to like how you actually your physiology changes and stuff too. So putting on music, I was big on music. I'm a music fan now. Like emotions hit like when you're in the fields or like if you know how to get in the fields, like get in the inspiring mode and stuff. Like I love listening to like 80s old school training montage like Rocky, Bloodsport, uh that it just brings back to like my wrestling days and stuff. So it's inspiring. Try to inspire yourself.
I believe, I mean, when I was biking, like I would listen to Slipknot
Yeah.
and just like Slipknot, Pantera, just like super hardcore, like heavy metal type shit. And I would just like that, I would just pedal way faster. I would hit like PRs and stuff, listen to that. So I totally get the music part. and I will commit to the 45 minutes as much as I don't want to. But all right, sold. You got it. And I'm also taking away from this one the going to bed at night and being like, I love to lift. I want this. And then
It all
looking at
sounds
myself in the mirror and seeing myself as that future me. So those
no,
are the
you don't
things.
know the influence. Like my youngest daughter, Zara, I can see it in her. Like when I pay attention, she's repeating shit in her head too. She's like brownie, 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 daddy brownie, brownie. Like she's like she has like a mantras. Like
Right? That's funny. That's funny. Well, cool, man. Well, I'm gonna I think that's it. So this is FIFO,
FIFO.
Samnang Man,
Another great.
episode 4 launching next week.
This is my gang sign. I invented. And when
It's like a heart and a peak.
the heart and the triangle, the heart and then the triangle is very philosophical, but that's my gang sign.
Nice. This is mine. You probably see me do it where I do the chakra, the rock star, the I love you, and the fist bump.
Oh, I like that.
That's my call sign, gang sign, whatever you want to call it.
Gang signs, you gotta have gang signs. Y'all
That's
want to
it,
be in
man.
the gang? Come join us.
That's it. That's it, man. Cool. Well, let's drop this
Okay.
and I'm just gonna stop the recording.